It is the John Phillips Show. Johnny's on vacation. It is January, of course, so it's Randy Wang here, and I'll be filling in all week next week. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. You can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com, and you can search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. Yesterday was a monumental day for LA Metro, as the LA Metro Board, after debating the subject for 10 years and talking about this subject for 40 years, have finally somewhat approved a plan for a metro line that will take people from the San Fernando Valley under the Sepulveda Pass to the west side. The problem? It's going to cost $25 billion, which LA Metro does not have. For more on this, we go to CBS in Los Angeles.
Good morning. You have 1 minute.
Nope, that's a different story. Here we go.
Good evening. I'm Rudabeh Shabazi. Pat Harvey is off tonight. It has been talked about for more than a decade, but now
It's been talked about since I was born.
It has been talked about for more than a decade, but now a subway under the Sepulveda Pass connecting the San Fernando Valley with LA's west side could be one step closer to reality if LA Metro can find $25 billion.
That's quite a bit of money. Now, you might think to yourself, wait, hasn't LA County been collecting taxes through Measure M and Measure R for the past decade or so? And wasn't that money supposed to go towards building this train that they're only finally deciding on which version they're going to build? Yes, but they've only got about $2 billion.
CBS LA political reporter Tom Waite is live in Van Nuys tonight, where the new proposed line would have a very important station. Tom.
No problem to find $25 billion, right, Rudabeh? The people we talked to tonight are pretty enthusiastic about the idea of getting a subway line.
And by the way, I'm enthusiastic about this too. As someone who has to drive on the 405 in the Sepulveda Pass every single day, unless I'm broadcasting from Santa Fe, it is a soul-sucking experience. It drives me crazy. It is the worst part of my life, which tells you that I live a pretty privileged life. But still, it is awful. It is horrible, and I don't wish it upon anybody. So if there was an alternative, and it was safe, and it was convenient, I would take it.
Under the Sepulveda Pass. I'm actually at a G-Line station right now. This is the Sepulveda station, and this new subway would apparently...
By the way, the G-Line is just a bus. But those actually might be better for metro stations in California right now because it's a lot harder to disable the buses with copper wire theft than it is with the trains.
Would apparently link in to this station. Imagine being able to avoid this, the infamous 405 gridlock. After a decade of debate, the Metro Board approved plans for a 13-mile subway under the Sepulveda Pass.
And by the way, if you want to know how the bureaucracy is real, to quote my friend Shangy, it took 10 years just to figure out which plan they're going to go with. 10 years. And the approval yesterday still means they have to go through a whole bunch of CEQA nonsense. Even when we want to do big things, this city, this county, and this state move like molasses.
Linking existing mass transit lines in Van Nuys and West LA.
The 405, especially in the morning, it is awful.
It's awful mornings. It's awful middays. It's awful afternoons. It's awful evenings. It's awful pretty much all hours of the day until about 8 o'clock at night.
The new subway line would connect 7 stations, but burrowing under the pass is not going to be cheap. The estimated cost between $20 and $25 billion. I
wonder how much we've spent on just studying this issue over the last 10 years.
There's still a lot to do until we get shovels in the ground, let alone open this thing. But I'm not sure.
None of the people who are supporting this will even be in office by the time this thing opens. And you also have to think about, as we're seeing these massive advancements in technology, and this is true for California's high-speed rail line as well, is this technology even going to be relevant 15 years from now? Who knows? Now, they say this thing's going to be open in 8 years. It's not.
But I'm not sure that there's been a project this transformative since the LA Aqueduct.
Where will the funding come from? It's not entirely clear.
There is that.
Some would come from Measure M, a half-cent sales tax approved by voters back in 2016.
Now, if you remember Measure M, Measure M was what Eric Garcetti promoted all the way back in 2016, saying that if you vote for this, we're going to build that train from the valley to the west side.
I've received things on both ends.
And we're finally getting around to starting to plan for it 10 years later.
To pay for transit projects.
We've tried widening freeways and building over the mountains, and we've spent billions of dollars doing it. The approach has failed. This project represents a fundamentally different strategy.
And I will agree with Katie Yaroslavsky, no relation, to that point right there. The 405 expansion did nothing. We all remember Carmageddon weekend where they shut down the 405 and were able to incredibly be done early, adding a lane on each side. It didn't help at all.
The 13-mile subway line would start in Van Nuys at the G-Line high-speed bus station. It's
not a high-speed bus. As somebody who has to deal with the stoplights along where the busway is, it is a regular speed bus that has to stop at every intersection. They say someday they're going to build overpasses so you don't have to stop at Victor. You don't have to stop at Balboa. You don't have to stop at White Oak, but it's just a bus.
It would travel under the Santa Monica Mountains, parallel to the 405, and connect to the D-Line station being built now to serve UCLA and Westwood. The line would end at the Expo Sepulveda station on the G-Line near the 405 and 10 interchange.
Theoretically, if this thing was built and I don't move by then, and I'm definitely moving by then, I could take this thing from my place in the valley to the radio station in Culver City. That would be pretty cool. I've actually done that once with the existing lines, and it's quite the journey, and it's not a safe one.
Could you imagine if you were able to get from Ventura Boulevard to Westwood in only 6.5 minutes?
Supporters of the project released this promotional video.
What we propose would be integrated with Metro's current and future transit system.
Angelinos who support the project say, bring it on, but there's some skepticism that it will actually happen. And if it does, when?
Believe it when I see it, because, we say we're going to do a lot of things, but...
Accurate, but...
Metro estimates this could take place and be finished by 2033 to 2035.
That's not happening. The shovels aren't even in the ground. They haven't even finished the CEQA process. They've just figured out which plan they're going towards. This state could try to speed this up, but they're not going to.
So that's not...
Let's not forget, California's high-speed rail was started in 2012 with an estimated completion date of 2020. Do we have a high-speed rail?
So that's not, of course, going to happen by the Olympics. Definitely not going to be done by then. Also, the subway would be placed about 500 feet underground, and Metro says that would help avoid vibrations to homes as they build this tunnel. We'll keep you posted on when the progress starts to take place.
So there you go. That's what's going on with transit in Southern California. Meanwhile, in the Bay Area, there are rallies going on in all 5 of the major Bay Area counties because proponents of Metro there, whether it's BART, Muni, VTA, Caltrain, what have you, all of these agencies say they're running off a fiscal cliff. They are going broke. And they need you to support a tax in November, an increase to the sales tax. I think it's a 0.5 cent in all the counties except for San Francisco, where it's a 1 cent tax, so they can fund Metro. Let's see what's going on here. Here's NBC in the Bay.
A day of action to save Bay Area public transit. Rallies will be held across 5 Bay Area counties with a common goal to win over the minds of voters. Today in the Bay's Ginger Conejero-Saab, live for us in San Francisco. And Ginger, I know the financial crisis runs really deep here. What do we expect to see out there today?
And sure, there are a lot of contributing factors to why these transit agencies are in a financial crisis, including what BART and Muni and LA Metro did during COVID, where they turned these things into homeless shelters. Because Gavin Newsom, let's not forget this, Gavin Newsom decided one of the things we needed to do in the COVID emergency was make Metro free. Not really sure why, but that was the plan.
Well, it might.
Then you have the failures that we talked about yesterday with BART, where their own incompetence led to them not cleaning inside the tunnels for years, which has led to sparking and fires.
Well, it might get
pretty loud as there are rallies that are expected to happen across 5 of the 9 Bay Area counties. Marcus, there's a transit caravan that's also set to kick off here in San Francisco at 10 this morning. It will be.
That sounds like a fun day.
It will be here in the city. It'll make its way as well across the bridge, across other counties like Alameda, Contra Costa, San Mateo, and it'll end in Santa Clara County. Now, the goal is to bring attention to that funding crisis you mentioned for Bay Area transit agencies and to get enough signatures to get the measure on the ballot for a vote in November.
Oh, they haven't even collected the signatures on this thing yet. If you remember, this was the thing Scott Wiener held the funeral for transit for, and they got the assembly, like the legislature, to pass a bill to allow the collection of signatures for a tax increase.
So in March of last year, state and local leaders were here in the city to announce plans of a funding measure for BART, Muni, AC Transit, and Caltrain.
Let's also not forget the other thing that happened during COVID. These agencies got a massive infusion of cash from the Biden administration through the American Rescue Plan, and their budgets bloated. And budgets for public agencies do not go down. They only go up.
Bay Area Transit previously averted major service cuts with $400 million of state funding. Now, that money, however, is expected to run out, making 2026 a pivotal year for Bay Area Transit. So the proposal came in the Connect Bay Area Act, which the governor signed last year. It is a funding measure that will appear as a 0.5 cent sales tax in Bay Area counties for 14 years, with the exception of San Francisco.
Yeah, the temporary tax of 14 years, believe you me, it will be made permanent, or they will do what they did with Measure H and Measure A in Los Angeles to fund homelessness, where it was a temporary 10-year tax that then was replaced in 2024 because the voters approved doubling it and making it permanent. We know in California there's no such thing as a temporary tax.
With the exception of San Francisco, that has a proposed 1 cent transit tax to cover muni deficits. Here's State Senator Scott Wiener last year when the funding measure was first introduced.
When transit is not working, that means many more cars on the road, and traffic congestion will be dramatically worse. It is in everyone's interest to make sure that we have high-functioning transit.
So, Marcus, supporters of the funding measure will have to gather 186,000 signatures by June to get this measure on the ballot. We're live in San Francisco. Ginger Conejero, Saab, Today in the Bay.
Now, there have been improvements on Muni. There have been improvements on BART. There's been improvements on Caltrain, and electrifying that was something that states should have done a very, very, very long time ago. But a lot of these agencies claim that they are heading over the fiscal cliff. They're going to need to cut service. They're going to need to cut jobs. And that is going to lead to more people not being able to use these things. And that is going to lead to, as Scott Wiener said, more cars on the already congested, awful freeways in the Bay. But on the other hand, it's already incredibly expensive to live in San Francisco, in Santa Clara, in San Mateo, even in Alameda County. It is very expensive to live in the Bay Area, and increasing the sales tax, even by that much, increases the cost of living for everyone, including the people that already can't afford to be here. So I think it's time we open up the phones. We got a lot of listeners in the Bay Area. Whether you ride BART or Muni or you don't, this does affect you. So if they get the signatures and this thing goes on the ballot, I want to know, would you vote to raise your sales taxes to fund BART and Muni? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. If this thing makes the ballot, how are you voting? Will you vote to bail out BART and Muni with your sales taxes? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Get on the line right now. We'll take your calls next. It's Randy Wang here on The John Phillips Show. It's Jimmy Buffett Friday on the John Phillips Show. That is Jimmy Buffett in a duet that he did during COVID with Eli Young Band, which is a local band out of Texas. It is a fantastic song. It's Randy Wang here. If you'd like to email us, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Sam writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com on the idea of a rail line from the San Fernando Valley to the west side. After running the proposed 8-year, $25 billion rail through my chat LA fraud and incompetence app, it really means 20 years and $75 billion. Accurate. We're taking your phone calls right now, 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. There are rallies going on all across the Bay Area today to collect signatures for a ballot measure that would increase your sales taxes to bail out Muni, BART, VTA, and the other Bay Area transit agencies. How will you be voting if that makes the ballot? Will you tax yourselves to bail out BART? 800-222-5222. Let's start with Robert in Santa Clara. Robert, hello.
I am so against any new taxes, any new labor union agreement, you name it, without addressing cap and trade and quadruple down gas taxes, which is inflated every good and service in the state, the cost of every public and private partnership adventure on getting some infrastructure built. We have to correct that first. It's like Scott Bassett said to talk about Newsom. Newsom, he actually is economically not illiterate. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's slush funding all this money, and he can dip into it, like you've said before, to pay off stuff, and we get nothing but high costs for everything. We have to correct first before we project anything else and fund anything else. So good luck, Scott Wiener, trying to talk about all this other stuff, because he's part of – they're like the diabolical duo, those two. They're just – Newsom and Wiener are the worst. And we're just going to have inflation and the same old dumpster fire and doom loop in California until we remove the infectors in the operating cost index or the consumer price index, CPI, OPI, whatever you want to call it. We need to get these guys out and correct our math first before we project any new costs. Build sites, reservoir costs, quadruple the costs. You already blew up 4 Klamath dams up north. We can't even gauge our water. We can't put out fires. Almond growers, Blue Diamond Almonds is leaving. Oil refiners are leaving. Leprino Foods leaving. Fast food, quick serve restaurants, they're all leaving. How many Jack in the Boxes have closed? Burger Kings, they laid off like 3,000 people. It's crazy. We got to stop appeasing this out of control dumpster fire.
Well, that's what we've been doing for a really long time. Thanks so much for the call, Robert. Appreciate it. And to his point on cap and trade, that was a program that was set to expire, and the legislature and Gavin Newsom decided they needed to extend it for another 20 years so they could spend $1 billion a year on the high-speed rail. Estimated completion date for San Francisco to Los Angeles? Nobody knows. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. If this Bay Area transit tax makes the ballot, how are you voting? Will you tax yourselves to bail out BART and Muni? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. It's Randy Wang here on The John Phillips Show. It's The John Phillips Show on this Jimmy Buffett Friday. It's Randy Wang here. And how exciting is this? In 2 weeks, we're going back to Long Beach. Join us for a live broadcast at Gladstone's in Long Beach Friday, February 6th from noon to 3. We're headed to Gladstone's in Long Beach for our next live broadcast, and you're invited. Come enjoy the great food, good vibes, and a fun afternoon by the water. We love it down there. John Segmeister is going to take care of you, and the food and drinks are really incredible there. There was one live broadcast. It was in November, and we were promoting that they were doing a big Thanksgiving dinner. And Sangmeister brings out an entire Thanksgiving dinner that I consumed while John was interviewing somebody. I was pretty happy that day. We're going to have special guests like Susan Shelley from the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association. She'll tell you more about your taxpayer rights and protecting Prop 13. As we have been telling you, the courts have made it easier to raise your taxes. We need you to come by and sign the petition to save Prop 13. The deadline is coming fast. She needs all those signatures by February 17th. So if you've already signed it, thank you. But get your friends, your family, your neighbors to sign it as well. You can do it all online or bring it in person, but go to the website, saveprop13.com, saveprop13.com. Come hang out with us, grab a bite, and be part of the broadcast. The John Phillips Show, live at Gladstone's in Long Beach, Friday, February 6th from noon to 3. By the way, I have seen messages that we got on social media today, and I totally agree. We should definitely be doing a remote in the Bay Area soon. Right now, what we need to make that happen is a venue and a sponsor. So if anybody is interested in getting us up to do a live show in the Bay Area, reach out to us. If you've got any connections, johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. We had some pretty big news that broke this morning in Los Angeles. U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley, acting U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley, announced another case in his investigation as to where all the homeless money is going, and he has found yet another head of a homeless nonprofit, a charity, if you will, that was living high on the hog on your dime. For more on this, we go to KTLA.
A charity director from Westwood has been arrested after federal authorities say he stole millions slated to help the homeless.
Shocker. By the way, this is the best thing that Asaley is doing, and I love when we see these announcements. And you know, at some point, we're going to get further than just the nonprofits. Who connected with the nonprofits? Who are the politicians that are connected with this guy that signed off on these deals?
They say he lined his pockets instead. KTLA 5's Corrine Winter, live in the newsroom with the details. Corrine?
Well, Sam and Glenn, the Homelessness Fraud and Corruption Task Force announcing this huge arrest today. Officials say that the executive director at the center of this case misused taxpayer funds intended to help some of LA's most needy individuals.
If you want to wonder where all the money has gone, why Skid Row looks the exact same way despite the billions and billions and billions of dollars that we have spent in Los Angeles City, in Los Angeles County, and in the state of California, it's because this is all too common.
He's accused of living the high life to the tune of $23 million instead of using public and taxpayer funds to help the homeless. That's according to federal and local officials who this morning arrested 42-year-old Alexander Sufer of Westwood at his multi-million-dollar home.
He lied to investigators when confronted. He provided fake invoices to make it appear that the payments to third vendors were legitimate. They were not.
Sufer.
I'm telling you, this kind of thing is happening all the time. And we finally have somebody that's willing to look at it, because the county's not going to do this investigating. The city's not going to do this investigating, because it's a lot of these people that have helped make these deals, and it's their friends and their supporters and their donors that end up being the heads of a lot of these nonprofits.
Sufer is the executive director of the charity Abundant Blessings and was given tens of millions of dollars in funds between 2018 and 2025 to feed and house roughly 600 individuals across the greater LA area.
The nonprofit grift in Los Angeles is just insane. I don't know if you remember this story. It came out about a year ago, but for decades, about 15 years, LA City was giving money to a nonprofit. This nonprofit's mission statement was to run youth after-school football leagues for at-risk kids to make sure they don't join gangs. Sounds like a worthy cause, right? We had given this organization like hundreds of thousands of dollars every year for over a decade. And it came out that that organization was a front for an actual criminal gang.
That meant providing 3 nutritious meals a day. Instead, the assistant U.S. attorney, Bill Asaley, alleges Sufer gave them this microwavable ramen.
This is what...
Oh, no. Well, if you're getting contracted to feed the homeless, and you can find the cheapest possible way to feed them and skim everything else off the top, why not?
This is what he was providing.
Now, how do the homeless that are on the streets eat the ramen? Are you providing them with little thermos and hot water as well, or they just kind of have to bite into it like a sandwich?
This is what he was providing. Ramen noodles and a microwave. And he was pocketing the rest of the money. The money was not intended for ramen noodles to be microwaved and fed to the homeless. He was supposed to provide nutritious meals. He pocketed the rest of the money. He probably spent $100 you see in that picture, and he pocketed the rest of the money.
That is quite the scam.
Investigators provided photos of some of the high-priced items Sufer got for himself and family, including the purchase of a $7 million Westwood home, a $125,000 Range Rover, luxury vacation trips to places like Hawaii and Florida.
And where is the oversight from the city or the county that the person that you are paying to feed the homeless is all of a sudden one of the wealthiest people living the high life? It's either that they're so incompetent that they don't know, or they don't care, or they're complicit in this.
Luxury vacation trips to places like Hawaii and Florida. Other expenses.
Luxury vacation to Florida, you say?
Other expenses included private school tuition for his kids and a nearly $500,000 vacation home in Greece. Sufer allegedly lied to the Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority on how he was directing the money.
And the Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority has its own crooked corruption going on, like the now departed head of LAHSA, Dr. Felicia Adams Kellum, getting caught signing checks to her husband's nonprofit from LAHSA. All the money that has been raised from Measure H and Triple H and now Measure A, state funds, county funds, city funds. If you wonder why there's no actual improvement on the streets, why you never hear that many stories of people exiting homelessness, it's because a lot of this money is being stolen.
Sufer allegedly lied to the Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority on how he was directing the money.
This is a case full of lies, deceit, and pilfering money intended on addressing one of the most prolific problems in Los Angeles County.
There is not just a federal investigation.
And this is why it would have been really nice if Gavin Newsom didn't veto a unanimously supported in the legislature audit of where the $20 billion in homeless spending went over 5 years. Gavin said that was unnecessary. This is the kind of stuff that people would like to see, but it would make a whole lot of people in charge look bad. And considering that Karen Bass appointed the head of LAHSA, who okayed all of these crooked contracts, Karen Bass is culpable in this as well. And you have to wonder every single day, where exactly is all the money she's spending on Inside Safe going? Let me just give you the quick math. We're spending $17,000 per person, per room, per month to stay at motels. How does that make sense to anybody?
There is not just a federal investigation, but one at the local level that District Attorney Nathan Hochman outlined. The DA's office conducted an independent parallel investigation with the U.S. Attorney's Office.
By the way, this is great, and another nod to Hochman, because Gascon certainly wasn't paying attention to this kind of grift.
With both having overlapping jurisdiction in this case. At the federal level, Sufer is facing wire fraud charges. At the local level, his charges include forgery, where he faces up to 17 years in prison.
Although that's probably considered a nonviolent crime, so he may serve the federal time, and then he might go to jail, maybe get an ankle monitor.
Rather than admit that he did something wrong and hand the money back, he doubled down on his crimes, first stating that he actually provided this money. Then he tripled down on his crimes, submitting fake invoices. And when he's confronted by the auditors about the fake invoices, he quadruples down and submits different fake invoices.
Officials say they've investigated 2 other alleged fraud cases regarding funds meant for the homeless that were misused, with these defendants also facing steep charges.
You know that this is just the tip of the iceberg. But this kind of thing was allowed. This guy was living an incredibly lavish lifestyle for, the last almost decade? And until you got Asali in there and you got Hochman in there, nobody cared. Nobody was paying attention because the money was getting spent, and that is how people like Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass dignify success when it comes to the homeless.
Now we have reached out to the Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority for comment. They have not yet responded. Sufer is expected to make an initial court appearance in Santa Ana sometime this afternoon. That's the very latest in the newsroom. I'm Corrine Winter. Sam and Glenn will send it back to you now in the studio.
So there you go, the latest big bust in the probe of where all the homeless money is actually going. This is, I believe, is the 3rd defendant who ran a crooked nonprofit. And did the city notice or care? Did the county notice or care? They did not. It's Randy Wang here on The John Phillips Show. It's Jimmy Buffett Friday on The John Phillips Show. It's Randy Wang here. The phone number to join us is 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222, and you can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. One of the side effects of so much of the money that you are taxed for that's supposed to help the homeless or get the homeless off the street is when the homeless don't get off the street, you see things that happen like happened in the Sepulveda Basin last night, another fire. So I live near the Sepulveda Basin, and here's my barometer for how successful our homeless programs are, whether it's in LA County, LA City, or the state. Because I don't believe the homeless count. I do not buy Karen Bass's numbers. We played you that rap from Matthew Seedorf of Fox 11 who talked to people on Skid Row. They're not buying the homeless numbers. They haven't seen any improvement. So I can only go by what I see and what I hear. And here's what I know. The amount of fires caused by the homeless in the Sepulveda Basin went up exponentially when Karen Bass took over as mayor. Exponentially. There were over 250 fires. Then, all of a sudden, it started getting attention. The local news media started covering it. And now they say they're doing something about it. But guess what? It happened again. And it ended up shutting down baseball fields for local schools. For more, here's CBS in LA.
Fire tearing through part of the Sepulveda Pass Basin in the early morning darkness. This time, not out in the middle of the basin, but in a tunnel near some ball fields. Fires in the basin have been a persistent issue for years, often started in homeless encampments.
The city says, I'm pretty sure that's the only way they're started. We don't get a lot of lightning in the San Fernando Valley.
The city says things are getting better, but some neighbors say they're not seeing it. As CBS LA's Joy Benedict shows us, this fire was so dicey they needed more than people to fight it.
The flame, it was so high, and the smoke, it was too much smoke.
Neighbors heard commotion and smelled the smoke.
It smelled like plastic, rubber is burning. It smells so bad.
Oh boy, what happened here?
Joseph Cohen lives across the street from Encino Franklin Fields in the Sepulveda Basin, where a fire burned inside a tunnel early Thursday. He says he's not surprised it started at a homeless encampment.
They smoke the drugs over there. The homeless is coming. Here, nobody cares to make it clean and beautiful.
Fires in the Sepulveda Basin aren't new to this community. At a meeting in August, now Chief Jamie Moore told neighbors that there were 254 fires in the first half of 2025.
254 fires just in this one park in the San Fernando Valley, which we also found out at that meeting that the LA City Park Service has assigned exactly 2 park rangers, not to the basin, to the entire San Fernando Valley, and trying to hire new park rangers is more difficult than trying to hire police.
80% of them were rubbish or warming fires, as it's believed that more than 250 homeless people live in the basin.
We have this problem for many, many years, and nobody cares, not even the city.
And this is a failure of the city. It is a failure of the county. It is a failure of the state. And it's also a failure of the federal government because a lot of this land is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and there's no excuse for all of these groups to get everyone out of there. It is such a danger. There's a wildlife preserve, and there's so many things that apparently you can't do because of all these insane rules.
They don't come and to clean it up.
It's also a massive dumping ground for contractors that don't want to go to the dump in Sun Valley.
But this fire created another problem.
It got the structure to the bridge going.
The fire started inside a 150-foot culvert that runs under a parking lot, and the structure is made of wood.
The bridge structure itself was all wood underneath the asphalt with creosote. Very hazardous smoke.
Assistant Chief Guy.
Great, so now a bridge is set on fire inside a tunnel that's full of material to preserve the wood that is toxic.
Chief Guy Tomlinson says they brought in the firefighting robot to put out the flames and protect firefighters.
I did not know the LAFD had a firefighting robot. Good for them.
To keep our firefighters out of harm's way from the fire and the smoke.
The fire was so toxic, we needed robots to fight the fire. Unbelievable. Let's go to Ed in Lake County. Ed, hello.
Randy, good to talk to you, sir.
Howdy.
So I wanted to talk about some verbiage and how we should use language a little bit better. And the term homeless, every time I hear it, it just grates my brain. It makes me so unhappy that people use this soft language. I'm sure you recall when you were young, we had all kinds of different homeless people. There was your typical junkie, right, which is your drug addict. Mm-hmm. We had hobos, your typical rail riding transient sort of hobo. There's an individual who just doesn't work, someone who would go on welfare and choose to never get a job. That's just a bum. You call that guy a bum, right? And so if we look at these sort of language, soft attacks on our culture, on our society, it seeps into the minds of the youth that these sort of behaviors are acceptable. And somehow these people that are victimizing the rest of us by not contributing to society as they should be are the victims themselves. And that's a toxic thing, to put us in a situation where we're going to outwardly teach our children that being a bum or a junkie or a scallywag or a tramp or whatever kind of title you would like to throw out there that used to be used so readily to show our children this example of bad behavior and to emphasize that it's not acceptable so they can aspire to not be that way. By saying, oh, it's just another homeless person. It's a groupthink, and groupthink is not a good idea. It's the liberal mentality, the Marxist mentality, lump everyone into groups, get rid of individuality, and I don't think that's something we should let happen.
Well, I think you make a really strong point, and all of our efforts to destigmatize homeless people hasn't really worked out. And even then, terms like homeless now are too offensive. This is true. Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority put out a style sheet where they wanted their employees to specifically say that the people that they are counting are not homeless people. They are either unhoused neighbors or people experiencing homelessness.
So Randy, I always love you guys. It's great just to have you and John both always, but getting to have you is always a pleasure to talk to you. I'm still waiting for that book I'd suggested, the Wang versus Dong that we talked about months ago. I hope you're writing diligently. And I wanted to talk about Newsom too. You know, he's an interesting guy. Obviously, he has some aspirations. I mentioned before that he's been known as being kind of a sycophantic S&M bonded sort of porno kind of guy when he was in San Francisco as the mayor, were the rumors floating around. But, you know, at some point, if he's doing these tours and he's going around, I think he should fight Jake Paul.
There you go. That'll be Gavin Newsom's. That'll be his big attention-grabbing event. Gavin Newsom pay-per-view. Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. We got 2 more hours to go. When we come back, Susan Dyer Reynolds, the voice of San Francisco, will join us. It's Randy Wang here on The John Phillips Show.